genealogy news from Geneatopia. I'm Patty Roy, also known as Dinah Larkin in Second Life. Today is Wednesday, May 31st, 2017, and this is episode 103. Family Tree Maker 2017 still has not been released. Software Makiev is still working with Ancestry to get the syncing working. In the meantime, those using the 2014 version of the software will now be able to upload and download trees at Ancestry. This will only be temporary. You will not be able to do this once the new software is released. As mentioned in the last episode, Thomas McKenty will no longer be updating Geneabloggers' website. He won't be selling that domain, but traffic from Geneabloggers.com will be redirected to his new website called AbundantGenealogy.com. All Geneabloggers' social media assets will be converted to Abundant Genealogy on June 1st. Thomas is looking for people to administer the Geneabloggers Facebook group and to set up a new Geneabloggers website to serve as a community resource. 23andMe customers in the United States have had access to a new website to view their results for a while now. Those in Europe have access to the old format. Well, now those customers in Europe will be transitioned to the new format sometime in June. All the health reports will be archived as PDF documents if you selected to save the reports. These are the reports that were created before the FDA made 23andMe stop issuing those types of reports. Depending on when you tested at 23andMe will determine what new reports will be available for you in the new format of the website. Over the years, 23andMe has changed what chip version is used to process DNA, and this determines what type of results will be available. The new format of the website allows you to link to online trees since you no longer can upload a GEDCOM file. And the Relatives in Common feature will be available. This is similar to shared matches on Ancestry or in common with matches at Family Tree DNA. There is a new website for people to enter information about how long it takes to process an Ancestry DNA kit. You register at the site dnaprocessingtime.com and enter when your DNA kit was activated, the date the kit arrived in the lab, the date the lab began processing the kit, and the date the lab was done processing the kit. At any point along the process, you can log in and update information about your kit. The site is useful for those who test and want to know approximately how long it will take to get their results. There's a new DNA study that aims to learn more about the genetics of the African diaspora. It's being done by Shannon Christmas, a well-known genealogist specializing in genetic, colonial American, and African American genealogy in Virginia and the Carolinas. There is a survey to fill out if you are a person of African descent and you match someone with 4 grandparents from an African nation or vice versa. I'll have a link in the show notes so you can find the survey if you qualify. MyHeritage has released their ethnicity estimate for all users. That would be for those who purchased a DNA kit from MyHeritage, as well as those who uploaded their results from other services. The new ethnicity estimate will be available to those who upload their DNA to MyHeritage in the coming months also. The new ethnicity report covers 42 geographical regions, some of which are exclusive to MyHeritage. They created a founder population project where they handpicked over 5,000 participants based on their family trees where those people had ancestry from the same region or ethnicity for many generations. This group was used as the basis for determining ethnicities for others. Plans are to continue to improve the ethnicity estimates and extend the founder populations project. When you look at your ethnicity results, you can choose to play an intro video that will show you on a map where you came from. As each place is displayed, music is played based on the cultural elements of that place. MyHeritage has introduced something called Collection Catalog. It lists the historical record collections that have been indexed and are available on MyHeritage SuperSearch. Each collection lists the number of records that are in it and the date when it was added or last updated. This feature has been requested by users. The collection catalog can be found on the Research tab in the main navigation menu, and it can be found on the SuperSearch homepage as well as from the footer of the MyHeritage website under the Research section. At the top of the collection catalog are some featured collections. These are collections that cannot be found anywhere outside of MyHeritage, or they may be new collections added to MyHeritage. The collection catalog can be sorted by number of records they contain, the date they were last updated, or by collection name. Now for a few more new records at Family Search. A new index records and images collection is Switzerland Fribourg Census 1880. A new browsable image collection is Germany, Saxony, Anhalt. Basically, those are ancestor passports. Then these next collections have indexed records added to an existing collection. Chile Cemetery Records 1821 to 2015. Denmark, Copenhagen City Civil Marriages. New Hampshire Civil War Service and Pension Records 1861 to 1866. New York Book Indexes to Passenger List 1906 to 1942. Peru Amazonas Civil Registration 1939 to 1998. Peru Lima Civil Registration 1874 to 1996. Spain Province of Asturias Municipal Records 1470 to 1897. And Utah Birth Certificates 1903 to 1914. And those were collections that have index records added to an existing collection. Ancestry has added over 6 million Wiltshire parish records. These are records for baptisms, banns, marriages, and burials. This is the first time these records have been digitized and made available. The original records are held by the Wiltshire Council and the Swindon Borough Council. Fold 3 has added some more states to its collection of World War II draft registration cards. The collection now includes Alabama, Connecticut, Florida, Idaho, West Virginia, Utah, Alaska, Wyoming, and Virginia. These cards are registration cards for the draft, and they don't indicate whether the individual served in the military. Information on these cards include the man's name, address, telephone number, age, place of birth, country of citizenship, and the name and address of the person who will always know the man's address, and there is employment information. Find My Past has added lots of parish records for Nottinghamshire. Those are the baptisms, banns, and marriages and burials. Find My Past has also added the following collections to its site: Vermont Enrolled Militia Records, 1861 to 1867. Surrey Institutional Records, 1788 to 1939. These include such things as poor law unions, workhouses, schools, and infirmaries. They've added to their collection of Essex Baptism Index, 1538 to 1917, Sussex Eastbourne Gazette newspaper notices, Derbyshire Hospital Admissions and Deaths, 1855 to 1913, Australian Capital Territory deaths, and Irish newspapers. More images have been added to Percy, the periodical source index. Images have been added to the New York Research, New York Genealogical and Biographical Record, New Zealand Genealogist, the Fenwick Colony Gazette, and the Friend Intelligencer. Last year, when Find My Past added Canadian records, they were listed under the United States. Lots of people complained about that, and now Find My Past lets you search for only records from Canada. The Library and Archives Canada has released their monthly report about the digitization Canadian Expeditionary Force personnel service files. They are now up to the name of Oliver. These service files are for soldiers of the First World War, and they are digitizing the files basically in alphabetical order. They started this project in 2014, and they plan to have the project completed by the end of 2018. At the current rate, the project should be completed by the end of 2018. They are about 70% done. The Kitchener Public Library in Kitchener, Ontario, has started to upload digitized versions of historical gazetteers and directories for Waterloo County. So far, there are 7 directories available at the library's website, and more will be added. The directories are in a PDF format, and they are searchable. Sanborn Fire Insurance Maps were created so insurance companies could determine how much to charge to insure buildings. The maps contain information about the size and construction materials of dwellings. They contain commercial buildings and other structures. They also show the names and width of streets, property boundaries, as well as the location of water mains, fire alarm boxes, and fire hydrants. These maps were updated every few years to keep current. The Sanborn Map Company was created in 1866 and continued creating maps to the late 1970s. The Library of Congress has placed online nearly 25,000 of these maps. More maps will be added each month until the year 2020, for a total of approximately 500,000 maps. Currently, there are maps available prior to 1900. The states available, according to the press release, include Arizona, Arkansas, Colorado, Delaware, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Michigan, Nebraska, Nevada, North Dakota, South Dakota, Vermont, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. However, if you go to the website, you will find maps from many other states. There are also some maps from Alaska that were published through the early 1960s. By the year 2020, all states will be online, showing maps from the late 1800s through the early 1960s. The Georgia Archives in the United States has placed online many Bible records that were collected from the 1950s to the 1980s. These records could be used as a substitute for birth and death records since the state of Georgia did not collect birth and death records until 1919. The Bible records were brought to the archives for microfilming by private citizens. After they were filmed, the Bible records went back to the original owners. The Georgia Archives discontinued this program in 1996. Once again, there have been lots of new collections added to Digital NC, the website for the North Carolina Digital Heritage Center. They've added 6 years of the Indian Head, the University of North Carolina at Pembroke yearbook. The years are for 2011 through 2016. Nearly 500 objects in Transylvania County Library's architectural survey have been updated with more detailed information. The update includes such things as maps, data sheets, historical building registrations, newspaper articles, and official communications between the state of North Carolina and property owners. And there is a new batch of materials from Rockingham County Public Library. The new materials include some three-dimensional physical objects such as quilts, wedding dresses, and jewelry. They've also added the Speedwell Presbyterian Churchyard Graves booklet, which contains the names and locations of all those buried in that cemetery. And they've added the Stoneville Patron Registration Books, which contain the names and locations of those who used this branch library between 1959 and 1982. The Arkansas State Archives has digitized 24 newspapers through a joint newspaper digitization project with newspapers.com. This website is a subscription website, but if you live in Arkansas, you can access the newspapers for free online at the State Archives Research Room and at the Central Arkansas Library System. These newly digitized newspapers will be available sometime in June. The popular UK television series, Who Do You Think You Are?, has won a British Academy of Film and Television Award for the Features category. This is the 4th time the show has been nominated for this award and the first time that they have won. Who Do You Think You Are? Has been produced for 13 series in the UK. The Oxfordshire Family History Society is starting a surnames research project to examine surnames that have been recorded in Oxfordshire. The project is expected to last about 2 years and will trace the whereabouts of surnames in different parishes over time. They are looking for some information that anyone might have of their ancestors in Oxfordshire. Later, you'll be asked for more details about the information you have for your ancestors. The project will be published as a book and with some information made available online in the member section of the Oxfordshire Family History Society website. And I have a link in the show notes where you can learn more about this project. The Forces War Records will be making all of its World War I troop movements free for anyone to access during the weekend of July 1st and 2nd. They are doing this to commemorate the 101st anniversary of the Battle of the Somme. They have transcribed the official orders of the battle publications as well as other official histories of the Great War to create a record of military operations and engagements by the British Army. All of this information is now available in the form of a map. This should provide an insight into the movements and actions the soldiers took during the Battle of the Somme. The International Bomber Command Center has launched a free-to-use database on the command's losses. There are details about over 57,000 men who lost their lives in the Second World War. There are 2.7 million pieces of information that will help you discover the story behind each loss. It took volunteers 4 years to create this database. RootsIreland.ie has added more records to its East Galway Family History Society database. There are a variety of different types of records. They've added non-Catholic marriages 1845 to 1955, the 1889 Woodford Parish Census, some graveyard inscriptions, a list of Christmas donations from some parishes, registry of freehold for 1829 from County Galway, some directories, and some tithe allotment books for 1827. There is a new free database called Buried in Fingal. It contains details of people who were interred in the burial grounds in Fingal County, which is located in North Dublin. Burial records date from 1877 to 2013. You can search by name and graveyard. The Irish Genealogical Research Society has launched the second and final tranche of stories about people's favorite Irish-born ancestors. They have added 30 more stories. This society started this project to celebrate the 80th anniversary of the founding of the society in 1936. Last March, they released the first tranche of stories. The stories have been placed in categories. The categories are 20th century lives, interesting professions, military men, New World, New Lives, women surviving and thriving, tales of the famine and working the Irish land, and a group of stories that don't fit into any of the themes. The University of Melbourne in Australia has digitized and indexed their collection of cards for World War II. These cards were donated to the university by the Red Cross of Australia. The collection includes missing, wounded, and prisoner of war inquiry cards dating from World War II to 1973. They are searchable by surname, initials, or service number. This past March, the Swedish Migration Center in Karlstad, Sweden, filed for bankruptcy. The fate of the Society's material, which has documentation of the immigration to the United States and Canada from Sweden, was a concern for many. The Kinship Center has bought the archives and equipment from the Society. They plan to run everything just as it had been at the main center. The branches of the Swedish Migration Center there were around Sweden will not be continued. There is a debate going on in Sweden about making the records from the National Archives free to access. Currently, records are behind a paywall. The Swedish government has asked the Swedish National Archives, or SVAR, to look into removing the fees to access the records. Fees range from $12 per week to $125 per year to access the records. Norway makes its digital archives free for everyone. The Armenian news agency, Armen Press, Beeline Armenia, and the Technological Development Center Fund have announced a project to digitize the news agency's photo archive. They will place nearly 10,000 photos online at a new site that will be called Armen Press History. The news agency was founded in 1918 and has covered all significant events for the past 100 years. The project is being launched for the news agency's 100th anniversary. 2 conferences to be held in 2018 have announced calls for presentations. Presentation proposals are being accepted for the Federation of Genealogical Societies 2018 conference that will be held in Fort Wayne, Indiana, August 22nd to the 25th. The deadline for submission will be Friday, July 14th, 2017. The Ontario Genealogical Society Conference will be held June 1st through the 3rd in 2018. This conference is focused on Ontario, Canada. They are looking for presentations about Ontario and tracing your Canadian ancestry. The deadline to submit proposals for this conference is August 5th, 2017. A genealogy cruise has been announced for 2018. It's the Alaskan cruise from Unlock the Past. This will be their 14th history and genealogy cruise and the first one to Alaska. Some of the speakers will be Chris Payton, Dick Eastman, Cindy Engel, Janet Few, Caroline Gurney, Jan Gow, Shauna Hicks, Eric and Rosemary Copetti, Mike Murray, and Helen Smith. The speakers are from the United States, England, Scotland, New Zealand, and Australia. Unlock the Past is based in Australia, and many of their cruises around that country as well as Scandinavia and Europe. The Alaska cruise will be September 7th through the 14th, 2018. Now for some webinars coming up. On Monday, June 5th, noon Eastern, will be a family search webinar called Using the Family Search Catalog Effectively. Then on Tuesday, June 6th at 1 p.m. Eastern, the family search webinar will be Overview of FamilySearch.org. On Wednesday, June 7th at noon Eastern, the family search webinar will be Starting Family Tree, Preserving Memories Using Photos and Documents. On Wednesday, June 7th at 2 p.m. Eastern, the Legacy webinar will be Researching Your Minnesota Ancestors. And then on that Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, the Family Search webinar will be Researching in German Archives. At 5 p.m. on that Wednesday, Family Search will present Ask Your United States Research Question. At 8 p.m. on that Wednesday, the Minnesota Genealogical Society will have a webinar using Google's My Maps as research and analysis tool, presented by Carrie Taplin. Then on Thursday, June 8th at 1 p.m. Eastern, the Family Search webinar will be U.S. Vital Records Overview. On Friday, June 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern, the Legacy webinar will be The Increasing Need for Foreign Language Indexing, presented by Devin Ashby. Then starting on Friday, June 9th, there will be free streaming sessions from the Southern California Genealogical Society Jamboree. On Friday, the sessions start at 4 p.m. Eastern. Then on Saturday and Sunday, the sessions start at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. On Friday, June 9th at 10 p.m. Eastern, there will be a Twitter Gen Chat. The topic will be Census Series using pre-1850 census. On Saturday, June 10th at 7 p.m. Eastern, Legacy Tree Genealogist Facebook Live broadcast will be Your Genetic Genealogy Questions Answered with Paul Woodbury. Then on Monday, June 12th at noon Eastern, the Family Search webinar will be Using the Family Search Catalog Effectively. On Tuesday, June 13th at 1 p.m. Eastern, the Family Search webinar will be Tips and Tricks for Using Family Search's Historical Records. At 3 p.m. on that Tuesday, the Family Search webinar will be How to Find Ancestors in the Digital Archives of Norway. And then at 9 p.m. Eastern on that Tuesday, the Illinois State Genealogical Society webinar will be Preserving Old Family Letters, Tips from an Archivist, presented by Melissa Barker. On Wednesday, June 14th at 8 p.m. Eastern, the Legacy webinar will be How Harry Potter Can Teach You About DNA, presented by Blaine Bettinger. On Thursday, June 15th at 3 p.m. Eastern, the New England Historical Genealogical Society webinar will be Choosing a DNA Test for Family History Research, presented by Christopher Child. On Thursday, June 15th at 8 p.m. Eastern, the Florida State Genealogical Society Poolside Chat will be Gone to Florida, Tracking Migrants from Antebellum, South Carolina, presented by Nancy Peters. And then Friday, June 16th at 2 p.m. Eastern, the Legacy webinar will be What Now? Your Next Steps with Autosomal DNA Testing, presented by Diane Southard. You can find all these webinars mentioned and more at the calendar at Geneatopia.com. The calendar has all the Google Hangouts that are scheduled, events going on in Second Life, and online events that you have to pay for. I've only mentioned the free ones here. And that's it for this episode. You can send email to geneatopia@gmail.com. You can find links to things mentioned in this show in the show notes at Geneatopia.com, as well as a transcript. The transcript can also be found in the Geneatopia Flipboard magazine, and you can find the recording on YouTube. This is episode 103. Thanks for listening.